everyone, Lucamus Prime here. So it is time for a next episode of a movie that didn't need a sequel, and in today's video on this I'm going to cover an example of a sci-fi horror movie which in my opinion did not need a sequel and was best off staying as a standalone movie. And this is a film which is by who is probably my favourite Dutch director of all time, which is Paul Verhoeven, one of my favourite directors of all time. And this is definitely, in my opinion, a very good film by him, one of his best ones in my opinion, which is none other than 2000's Hollow Man. So this is, of course, a sci-fi horror film which is based on the book of The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. And I saw this film in 2023, and I've got to say that, in my opinion, it's a really good movie, and I definitely really enjoyed it. I think it has a really great story of a mad scientist who volunteers to become invisible as part of a project by taking a serum, and then, of course, he's unable to be restored to be visible, and he then becomes unstable and then goes on a killing spree. So I think that story, in my opinion, was definitely done really well, in my opinion, and I think they did a really great job with it. And it was definitely lots of fun, and I've got to give lots of praise to the visual effects department for handling the invisibility of both Sebastian Cain, the mad scientist who becomes invisible, and also sort of a start to film the gorilla who is restored to visibility. In my opinion, they really nailed the visual effects for the gorilla being restored to visibility, and also when Sebastian is invisible. I think they did a really great job of it, especially as well in the scenes where of course, he becomes partially invisible due to things being sprayed on him, and also in the final climax of the movie. And speaking of that final climax as well, I think the film also has a pretty great ending, which is very satisfying, because it has a pretty great showdown between the two main characters, of course, which are Linda McKay, who's played by Elizabeth Shue, and also, as well, Matt Kensington, who is played by Josh Brolin, as they are in a showdown with Sebastian. And it's a pretty cool fight as well, I must say, which is done really well, especially, like I said, with visual effects for Sebastian when he becomes partially visible, such as when he gets electrocuted, for example. And of course, they're in an elevator shaft, and Linda disconnects the elevator cables, and then Seb falls to his death, and he meets his end right there. And then Linda might emerge from the lab, and then the emergency personnel take them away to safety in an ambulance. And right there, I did not see any sign of sequel baiting whatsoever, because the film ended where the Invisible Man was defeated, just like that. So I didn't see any sign of sequel baiting whatsoever. But unfortunately, despite this great ending, we then got a sequel 6 years later, which was unfortunately a direct-to-video one. Like, why is it that lots of Paul Verhoeven's films have had a treatment of having an unnecessary sequel released? Like, there's so many, and I've already covered many of them in my series of this, such as, for example, RoboCop, my favourite film by him, in my opinion, his greatest work, and one of the best films of all time. And also, as well, Basic Instinct as well, in my opinion, had a really bad sequel to it, which I've already ranted about in this series. And it would seem that Total Recall is so far the only film I've seen by Paul Verhoeven which has not had the treatment of a very bad sequel so far. But I heard had a remake which I had good reviews for. And when it comes to Hollow Man, it's unfortunate, of course, got a sequel which was 2006's Hollow Man 2, which I saw a couple of weeks ago at the time of this recording, and I personally thought this sequel was terrible. Like, oh my goodness, just what happened with this sequel? Because compared to the great horror film and sci-fi film, which of course is the original movie, I absolutely hated this sequel. Like, it was just so terrible in my opinion, and I don't even know why it needs to exist in the first place, because the first film had no sequel baiting. It ended perfectly fine on its own as one movie, just one. So I don't understand why they had to do a sequel. So, when it comes, of course, to why I think it's so bad then, I think it takes what was so great about the first movie and just erases it, in my opinion. Because compared to the first one, which had plenty of scary moments, because it was a horror film and a sci-fi film put together, this film barely had any horror whatsoever, in my opinion. Like, you do get a few kill scenes at the start of the film, but that's pretty much almost all you get when it comes to the violence in the film, really. And any of the violence after the opening kill scene is just so lame, in my opinion. And I must also add that, in my opinion, the visual effects for The Invisible Man are also, in my opinion, pretty bad too, as well. Like, they just look so fake, and you can tell the film looks so cheap, as well. Like, goodness me, you can tell it's direct-to-video because of that, really. Like, because compared to the absolutely stunning visual effects from the first one, which got nominated for an Oscar, the visual effects in this sequel were just trash, in my opinion. And it also as well botches the law too, because it reveals that when you're invisible, you deteriorate health due to radiation. But Sebastian Cain didn't show any signs of dying in the first film. He just went psychotic. He didn't, end up dying from radiation. No. Because in the film, he was just, going crazy from the invisibility. That's it. So, all I can say is that this sequel was just so stupid in my opinion, and was just so terrible compared to the absolutely great first movie, which I had a lot of fun watching, just like I have with many of Paul Verhoeven's other films, because like I said, I love RoboCop and Total Recall and Starship Troopers, Basic Instinct, and also this film, Hollow Man. It's just a shame that lots of his films have a treatment of really bad sequels, this film included. Like, goodness me. So, this film to me is just an absolute joke compared to the amazing first movie, and if I wasn't watching it for this video, I'd have probably switched off earlier because there was barely any horror. The story, in my opinion, made no sense, and it botched up the lore with lots of plot holes and characters in it that I didn't even care about whatsoever, because despite being regarded as a sequel to the first movie, it doesn't bring back any of the characters from the first movie, with any of the cast reprising their roles. The only connection you get is a mention of the first movie's events with archive footage of Sebastian Cain. And that's pretty much it, really. Like, it doesn't feel like a sequel whatsoever to the first movie. It just feels like just a complete joke in comparison. Like, it's just so terrible in my opinion. Like, if you guys have seen the first movie and you love it, then please don't see the sequel. It's just so bad in my opinion. When it comes to the future, I will hopefully one day get Hollow Man on Blu-ray because I love the movie. I think it's a great film. I've already got several Paul Verhoeven's films on Blu-ray, so that'll definitely be added to my collection of Paul Verhoeven films because he's one of my favourite directors of all time. I'm hoping I can get that film one day to add to it. So, but as for the sequel, hell no am I ever going to buy that. No chance. I don't see why I should at all, because in my opinion the sequel is terrible and I'll never own it. So, anyway guys, this is me doing the next episode of Movie Didn't Need a Sequel. I was saying why, in my opinion, Hollow Man is definitely a big example I can say of a sci-fi horror film that did not need sequels. So, you know the drill guys, be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to put in the comments what you guys think of Hollow Man. Do you need a sequel or not? Leave comments below what you think. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for this to come in the future, and I'll see you all later.